Getting started preparing for your first podcast. As I indicated earlier, podcasting is more popular now than it was several years ago. If you are ready to create your first podcast, let us begin. Again, as indicated earlier, we shall look at the 4 stages of podcasting in chapter. Step 1, determining the nature and subject of your podcast. As I said earlier, podcasting is not as restrictive as traditional broadcasting. However, this does not mean that it is a walk in the park either. Deciding the content of your podcast is one of the most important decisions you will make in your podcasting career, regardless of your reason for podcasting, money, or just for fun. Brainstorm some ideas of what will be the main contents of your podcasts and write the ideas down. I must point out that podcasts are more or less like episodes. One episode has to be a continuation of the last episode or building on concepts built in the last episode. Write down your ideas and create a sort of roadmap for your talking and discussion points. The list of topics you can cover is endless. For example, podcast.com, a podcast distribution, lists podcasts on the platform, tips on how to choose what topic to podcast about. Tip 1, answer the why question. Why do you want to broadcast your podcast? What do you aim to get from it? Are you doing it for fun or for some money? It is wise to ask yourself the why question in terms of the people who will subscribe to your podcast. The audience, or rather, potential audience, will also be struggling with the why question. Why should I trust you? Why should I subscribe to your podcast? When you define your why, i.e. why you are doing a podcast, it will form the backbone for your motivation and interest in your preferred subject. Further, you should note that in podcasting, the money motivation is simply inadequate. Set a SMART goal for your why. Determining your why will also play a very big role in helping you create content that answers the subscribers' why questions. Tip 2, what is entertaining and or helpful? Podcasting is a personal connection between the subscribers and the podcaster. Before someone can subscribe to your channel, he or she is looking for one of these 2 things: entertainment or information. Information could mean information that helps the listener take some action in a specific area of their life. For example, a podcast about how to make stock investments is helpful, so is any podcast on the many how-to subjects. On the other hand, an entertainment podcast could be making people laugh, inspiring them, or driving their interest. 4. Example, a comic podcast, a podcast centered on jokes, may be entertaining. And so is a music podcast. When you decide which subject to pursue on your podcast, you will easily know what is entertaining or informative. Tip 3, follow your passion. Whichever topic you zero in on, ensure that you are passionate about it. Passion is what drives you to create more podcasts even when you have 0 subscribers. Moreover, it is important to point out that in the beginning, you will have 0 subscribers. Passion for a specific subject also shines through in the way you talk about it. If you are not passionate about a subject and are doing it for the money, you can bet that this will reflect in the quality of your podcast. Not in terms of sound quality, but in terms of topic and content quality. By picking a subject of interest to you, you enthusiastically pursue the subject and communicate that enthusiasm to the subscribers. Tip 4. What is relevant to you? Why? What is relevant to your audience? What are they looking to get out of the podcasts you create? What would make them happier to learn? For example, while you may decide to create a podcast about dealing with acne, it would be more relevant to create a podcast about dealing with acne the natural way. Why? Because someone suffering from acne may have tried most acne healthcare products with little or no success. Tip 5. Consider your expertise on that subject of field. In truth, podcasting is more about your courage, boldness, and audacity to broadcast than it is about your skills. However, this does not entail a pass to have lousy content on your podcast. A podcast is verbal, visual, and at times, both. While your subject and content may be great, you still need to do one more thing to make the podcast stand out among many others, i.e. present it. Not just present it, but also present it succinctly and in an understandable manner. You must have the knowledge to produce and edit the audio or video clip well, convert it into another media file if necessary, and use the internet to upload it. Fortunately, you do not have to be an expert in a specific field. If you are passionate about it, you can start now and learn along the way and share that journey with those who subscribe to your podcast. Step 2. Choose your podcasting equipment and products. Creating a podcast is easy. In fact, you can create a podcast by using the microphone on your laptop or PC. However, the microphone on your laptop or PC is at best iffy. This means that your podcast will be of low quality. In podcasting, quality takes precedence. Therefore, you need to invest some of your time and money into finding equipment and products you can use to create your podcast. This may include buying a new noise cancellation headset with microphone, a mixer if you are using an analog microphone, and even a new computer. Do not, I repeat, do not make the mistake of assuming that the microphone on your computer is capable of recording quality sound. Especially if you have an intention of sounding or coming of as a pro in your podcast. You can get affordable sound recording equipment online or at your local music store. You also need to consider one other thing of vital importance: where will you podcast from? Will you podcast from home or on the go? If your podcast location will be home, it is okay to invest in some non-portable equipment. However, if your podcast will be on the go, having non-portable equipment is not feasible or logical. Therefore, you may need to invest in a smartphone or a portable voice recording device. Tips for choosing podcasting equipment. Tip 1. Pick your microphone carefully. A microphone is the mouthpiece you will use to communicate with your podcast community. If you have a terrible mic, your sound will come out in gurgles or hardly audible. Remember that, except in video podcasts, the only connection between you and the person listening to the podcast is your voice. If your voice is inaudible in one podcast, not only does it spell unprofessional, the audience will be quick to click on the unsubscribe button. Tip 2. Choose your location well. Sometimes, it is possible to choose your recording location, at other times, not so much. I cannot offer you much advice in terms of the best location for creating your podcast. All I can say is that location is important. If you are creating the podcast at home or indoors, you should choose a room that does not bounce sound off the wall, i.e. a room that has some carpeting and items on the wall. If your podcast is on the go, try as much as you can to avoid recording your podcast in noisy environments. Essentially, you can record your podcast anywhere, in the car, bathroom, or closet. The key point is to make sure that the location is noise and distraction-free. Tip 3. Carefully choose your video camera. If you are recording a video podcast, a good camera is essential. In video, you have many choices, the easiest and most productive one being a digital camera. Well, it is best to opt for a DSLR if you really want high-quality videos. This is because if you decide to use an analog camera, you will have to go through the process of converting that video into a digital format. A good, simple, but clear camera is adequate for podcasting purposes.